go on Instagram as well. So give me. And I believe we are, yes, it's fabulous. We're live. So welcome everyone. Yay! To another 20 questions. We're rebooting it because we have so many fantastic authors with us. And Kate is our very first author in this new iteration.
Uh-oh, I think my internet's lagging.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, good. Okay, so for those of you who've never joined us before, 20 questions is just a cheap opportunity for me to basically hang out with some of our amazing authors, such as Kate. And Kate is the fantastic author of Alterations, which actually just came out under Running Wild Press. And to give you a little bit of info about Kate, sorry, I'm not looking directly at the camera. It's just because I'm looking at one of my other screens. So Kate is actually the author of Harrogate, Bleak Houses, and The Collective. And her novella, Family Solstice, was named Best Fiction Book of 2021 by Rue Morgue magazine, which that's just incredible. Her short work has appeared in numerous journals and anthologies, and she is a two-time Pushcart Prize nominee and winner of the Uncharted Short Story Prize. She served on the working board for Women Who Submit and the board for the Shirley Jackson Awards. She writes, teaches, and cooks and eats in Los Angeles, and we both go on non-morbid morgue tours with other fans of dark fiction and horror. Alterations, just the quick 2-sentence version of it. You can't choose your family, but you can't escape them either. 3 lives twined together in the past and the present to take a closer look at how family, want it or not, makes up who we are. And isn't that cover fabulous? Just putting that out there. Okay. So with that, I have...
It's so pretty. Thank you to Emir Orusevik for designing this beautiful
cover. Okay, so I have 20 irreverent questions.
I think my internet's spotty.
It's okay. Mine is too. So hopefully we'll catch up with each other along the way. Okay, my first question for you. What is the very first book you remember reading?
That's a hard one. I think that it might have been A Snowy Day. That's one that really stuck with me, by Ezra Jack Keats. And what's funny is when you say reading, it turns out I read it to my children when they were grown, and I realized I did not know a word of it. I was not read to as a kid, so I remembered every single photograph, and I wasn't quite sure what happened. But that's probably the childhood book that really stuck with me, because the illustrations were beautiful.
Very cool. And so who's your favorite author? Let's just say for those of you who probably don't know, Kate and I actually have hung out a few times at things like StokerCon. We have a shared love of dark fiction. So let's just say, who's one of your favorite authors in the horror or like more like dark fiction genres?
Yeah, so my favorite is usually what I've been reading most recently. So I can't it's not as if someone moves up to that pedestal again. But what I absolutely loved reading this year was Sundown in Sanahuela by M.M. Olivas, which is a really creepy, fabulous book that takes place in Mexico and just north of the border. And I also really loved Lilian Rivera's Tiny Threads, which was it took place in Vernon in
Mm.
Los Angeles. And what I love about LA, not love about LA, because some of the history is definitely dubious, but what's most fascinating about LA is the layers. In every neighborhood you go to, there are layers of people who have lived there and been displaced. And she managed to turn Vernon into this like marvelously haunted space for her novel. So that was really good. So that's sort of this year.
That's awesome. That sounds fantastic. I'll have to pick that up. Who do you feel as though most influenced your writing?
That's a good one. That's kind of easy. I was raised by a writer, Kit Reed, who was also a writer of um, dark literature. So I think probably just from the day I first started writing, all the way through until she passed in 2017, she's probably my biggest influence.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Who was your mother?
Kit Reed, and she was known for her short stories and her novels, and she was in genre circles, she was incredibly well known, but also because she was an amazing literary citizen and helped a lot of writers in her life as she went through.
Oh my gosh, she sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. Um, if you could only read one book for the rest of your life, what would that book be?
So I'm not certain if you're lagging or I'm lagging.
It could be either one of us. Let me try again. If you could read one book the rest of your life, what would that book be?
I think I lost the last half of that,
That's okay.
but I think I know the
Let's
question. It was if I could read one book. Yeah. Um, yeah, I would just say actually one series over and over. I would read the Oz books a million times if I could. They were actually kind of, for me, the original horror for horror novels that I read, because Oz is actually a really terrifying land. If you die in Oz, you live forever, even if someone has hacked you to pieces, kind of terrifying. So there are always like really dark little corners that the characters would walk through with all kinds of dark secrets. I remember there was a town of people entirely made of china, and if they tipped over, they would break and just be stuck there forever. So,
wow. um, what do you reread all the time?
so again, you're breaking up a little, so I wasn't sure if you asked a question just there.
I did. Let me see if I can. What do you reread all the time? And it doesn't have to be a novel, it can be anything.
Um, I'm not much of a rereader these days because I feel like I'm trying to keep up with all the amazing stuff coming out. There's so many good books every year coming out in genre. Um, so I don't think I've reread since I did a lot when my kids were small, not small, when they were like seventh, eighth grade. I would start, reading them Dickens. I read them some T.H. White. But nowadays it's like anything I can get my hands on that has just come out. Because I think we're really in a golden era for genre fiction and for fiction in general.
Absolutely. What book would you save in a book burning? Let's try this. It's just odd. What book would you save in a book burning?
Oh my God. All of them. I'd probably throw my body on them.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah, I completely feel that sentiment. And and then what inspired you to write Alterations?
Did you ask me? I can't. It's all
Uh,
very spotty, so wasn't sure if you asked
what
me another.
inspired you? What inspired you to write Alterations? I put it in the
A
chat
number
too.
of things, but first off, Tony Ann Johnson. Okay, yeah. Tony Ann Johnson is a really dear writer friend, and we had exchanged our novels. And she asked me why I wasn't writing about old movies because I absolutely adore old movies. I grew up the kid of a professor who founded the film department at Wesleyan University, along with John Fraser, my dad, Joe Reed. And so we watched old movies all the time. If he had assigned them for his class, he'd bring home the 16 millimeter and we'd watch it in our living room. So I grew up on all of these movies that are sort of centered in alterations. And I started doing research. I was like, yeah, she's totally right. And I had come up with the character of Adriana, and I absolutely adored Edith Head, who was the head of costume department at Paramount. And I loved her costumes over all of her movies. So I researched her, and I was researching Barbara Stanwyck. And another favorite of mine was Cary Grant. But when I got into his story, what I found was a very sad love story because he and Randolph Scott had been together for about 7 years, and they were just a full-on couple with a full house, and they were getting away with it for a little bit, and then they started to not get away with it, and then the studios started. They found Cary Grant a wife, and Randy went along on their honeymoon. They basically, I think, gave him you can no longer work for us unless you break up with this guy ultimatum. People are not quite clear on why they separated, and it might have been that Randy was always out and Cary Grant was always sort of living as if he were cishet. So that was a very sad era to be gay, and I wanted to sort of explore Adriana's like absolute love of her life, her relationship with Rose. and sort of those areas where it's not quite a decision, but decisions are sort of foisted on you in that time because things were not talked of. So I wanted to dig into that, which I did. And I started to ask, like, when you make decisions like that, how does that affect your functionality in the rest of your life? And so decisions that Adriana makes really affect 3 generations of her family. So it covers her granddaughter, Laura, who comes to live with her after failing in Hollywood, and her great-granddaughter, Lizzie, who's been orphaned, and the 3 of their lives sort of butting up against each other, facing this older story that's coming through.
Wow, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Who did you allow to read the book as you were writing it?
I wrote it solo for a good long while, and then I could not figure out the ending. So I gave it to Toni Ann Johnson was one of them. Diane Sherlock was another. And I think my colleague UV Zalko. And I said to them, I don't want you to figure out the ending for me, but I want you to tell me what I've got here, what you're responding to. And through their responses and questions to the characters, I was able to finally, and sort of how each person identified what was going on with each character, I was able to finally come up with the ending. So it was very handy, and I was super grateful to them. And only after I finished that draft did I turn it into my then agent, who gave me some more notes. So I was working on it on the it took me about, I think, 2 years to get that partial draft down, and then it took about 5 years to get through all the rewrites because there were so many different characters and points of view. Yeah. So I love
And
this book very much. I remember when oh, go ahead.
Oh no, it's go. You love the book.
Yeah, so when I sort of put it down and it went out into the world, I sort of missed the characters.
What did they respond the most to in that first iteration?
Rose and Adriana. I think they really came to life for people. And actually, Rose and Adriana were the reason that, when my book wasn't selling, Toni Ann would write to me and she's like, I love them. They need to be out there. And she kept nudging me over the years to keep sending the book out. So I think the Back in Time story. And I think Laura, who is the 20-something character in present day being the 90s because of math. With her, I think a lot of people identify with her because she's a bit of a hot mess, making bad decisions in her 20s, and I think a lot of us can identify with that.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Now, if you were at a dinner party with 4 seats, what 4 people would you invite and why?
And I think, well, I was thinking on this earlier because I think it was like 4 writers. So it gets personal and then a little bit people I've read. So definitely my mom and definitely my godfather, who is Paul Horgan, who was a really good writer in the 20th century. I would also ask Peter Straub because he was just a funny, delightful person to have a meal with. And then for someone I haven't met, I think because of that arrangement of writers, I would definitely add Shirley Jackson. I have a feeling she was incredibly funny and great to probably great to hang out with.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What is the drug, either literally or figuratively, of your choice?
Streaming services. I mean, I guess it's better than, alcohol or actual drugs, but I will sink into a series and just sort of disappear for a while.
Excellent. Do you have a series that you're right now kind of addicted to?
Sorry?
Is there a series that you have right now that you're addicted to? Oh, let's see. How do I? Oh
A
boy.
series I love?
Let's try this. Yeah, one that you're really into right now.
Well, I think the one that really flipped my lid most recently was the season 4 of True Detective, that was written and directed by Issa Lopez. That slow burn of an absolutely terrifying story, and I love that it
Mm.
questioned whether or not something supernatural was going on. And the answer really just nailed it. It was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to check that out. That's awesome.
I was talking with a friend. Yeah, I was talking with a friend about how novels are really 10-part series and novellas are more movie structure. So,
mm, yes.
this would make a really good 10-part series. Lots of roles for really good people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. um, and what book is your guilty pleasure?
A guilty pleasure. I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe Terrace House, which is kind of it's a Japanese Big Brother, and I watch it because I'm
Mm.
trying to learn Japanese, so being able to hear it is really good. It definitely, I have to turn it off sometimes because they're being ridiculous. But it is definitely one that's fun to turn on and in the background.
Cool. Do you read with music or quiet or with some kind of like background sound?
Usually quietly. I mean, you know, in my younger days, I read on public transportation, so I could just tune out whatever. But
Mm,
it's not my custom to read with music.
mm. Understood. I personally cannot. I can't write with music because I start writing the lyrics
Oh, me either.
not like inadvertently.
Yeah, I can't have words when I'm writing words. Yeah.
No, exactly. um, if you
That
could ask
said,
for,
I had listened to when I was 15 and I wrote my yeah, when I was 15 and wrote my first novel, I so often oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go. You were 15 and you wrote your
Oh,
first novel.
I had listened to yeah, which was oh, it was terrible. But I played Tommy's The Who in the background because I'm sorry, The Who's Tommy because I had heard it so many times that I couldn't hear the lyrics anymore. But that's the only time I wrote with music. I don't know what that was about. You can ask my 15-year-old self, but I can't do that anymore. The only time I'll do it now is if there's too much conversation going on around, and then I'll blast some classical music or something.
Mm. Oh, that's fabulous. um, if you could ask for one thing to change the world, what would it be? All right, let me try this. Ooh, I think we both lagged. Um,
Oh
if you could
no.
ask for if you could ask for one thing to change the world, what would it be?
Mm. At this point, yeah, that's a good question. Um, I don't know, women could be running more countries than they are. I think that might do it, especially this country. Be good for a spell. But I don't know. If I could fix the world, that would be amazing, but it seems a bit beyond my scope.
What does your reading environment look like?
Wait, sorry, can you say again?
What does your reading environment look like?
Oh, it changes. I read all over the place. Especially, I'm getting older, you can't be in one position. So the sofa is a favorite, but sitting out back is a favorite. And lying in bed is actually sort of a cover for the fact that I'm probably going to nap, but I'll get going with a book. So yeah, wherever is quiet.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Do you prefer paperback, ebook, audiobook, or hardback?
Hardback is getting hard to hold. I've noticed as I get older and achy. But everything is kind of my favorite. I love an audiobook when I have been reading too much student work, because when I'm reading, I'm a teacher at Cal State LA in Antioch, and when I read student work, I get in corrective mode. So during the semester, I tend to listen to audiobooks mostly. I like ebooks because I can call them up on my phone wherever, and I love a physical book too. It just depends on my mood, but I'm usually consuming them any way I can.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, now, if you were to cast Alterations, who would you cast as your main characters and why?
Oh gosh, it's so funny because when I was first writing it, I really saw Christina Hendricks as Rose, and I have a feeling she's aged out of that now. So, you know, contemporary actors, it would take a little bit more sort of digging on my part. But I definitely had, people in mind at each time. I've told fellow writers that sometimes it's nice to cast your work because then you can think about cadence and how someone will sound, and it helps. But I think that there are a lot of contemporary actors who look very period, so I would sort of lean toward that. But I think whoever would want to be in it would be correct. Who would play Edith Head? That would be really interesting. I'm not really sure. I think if I were casting back in the 80s, it would be Linda Hunt. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who plays Barbara Stanwyck? I don't know. Yeah.
Anyone who's watching this, if you're watching it and you have ideas on who would make great characters for Alterations, go ahead and toss it into the comments section. We would absolutely adore seeing your thoughts. Now, if you could meet absolutely anybody, who would you want to meet and what would you ask them?
Oh, well, it's sort of from the other question, but definitely Shirley Jackson. And I would ask, that's so funny because when you think about the actual person, it wouldn't necessarily be polite, but I would ask how she put up with that husband for so long. And also I would ask her about her kids. Yeah, So she was amazing because she would write for Redbook about her family, Redbook and other ladies' magazines, to make money. In the meantime, she was writing Haunting of Hill House, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And she was also raising 4 kids who she totally, it was very not 1950. She really saw each of them for who they were and sponsored their interests. So I got ask her how it all done. and how she protected her. Yep, that's both of us.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, that sounds incredible. Describe yourself in 5 words.
Okay. I don't know. Hopeful, probably too hopeful. Um, you know, writer. Uh, not from the bio, but and I think that's 4. And LA.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, you're frozen.
How about describe your life in 5 words? Let's see.
Uncertain, but comfortable. And walking, reading, biking, and teaching. Teaching is a huge, huge part of it.
Oh, wow. Now that sounds like fun to me.
That's a 6 word, lucky.
Well, and absolutely talented and a brilliant storyteller. So if I had to add to your list of self-descriptions, what was your last guilty pleasure?
I don't know. I think even though like I grew up Catholic, I don't think of things as guilty pleasures. I think also because sometimes I think that sometimes judges the thing. So I would call it, I imagine probably an overpriced meal in Frogtown would be a guilty pleasure because I guess there would be guilt over the spendage.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Actually similarly, there was a limited engagement stand up for a Michelin starred restaurant that had closed during COVID. And they just did this 2-week engagement that you had to, and believe me, I would never pay that much for a meal, but this was one of those, like, you'll never have this opportunity again in your life. So I totally feel you on the overpriced but worth it expense. So yeah.
Spendy part.
Exactly. If you could write yourself into a novel, would you be a hero or a villain, and why?
I don't know. I think I'd be more of a Calamity Jane anti-hero. I think getting into constant scrapes would be more my MO.
I could see that. That would be fun, actually.
Yeah. What mess
um,
does she get herself into now? That kind of thing.
Is there anyone you dream you could work with, and why?
Did I miss a question?
It's okay. Is there anyone you dream you could work with, and why?
I I think that life sort of brings me people to work with in I adored working with Amy Hardy, who edited this book. I feel like there are a lot of good people to work with. I really loved working with Writ Large Press and their 90 by 90 group. I feel like we have such a rich community. Sort of it's more fun to see sort of who shows up in your life and collaborate. I'm collaborating now with my friend LP Kindred, who's a really good writer of dark stories, and we're
Mhm.
collaborating on a book about novellas. So I think the right people come along.
Mm. Um, when was the last time you ran wild, and what did you do to make it wild?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I'm older, so wild means different things. I bought myself a bicycle and just taking off and heading down the river, and going wherever the day takes me. It feels like a really nice, sort of wildish thing to do.
That sounds like a blast to me.
Yeah.
um,
I
if
feel like I'm
someone
12
asked,
again. Anyways.
that's awesome. Um, Disney, Universal, or Warner Brothers? Let's try it this way.
That's very funny. I worked at Universal for a while, and I worked at Warner Brothers for a while. So I think more of the campus. So campus wise, Warner Brothers. I think I'm a very big fan of the old Universal monsters. So
Oh, that's very, very fun. Let's see. Uh, well, I'm hoping you can hear me. Um, tea or coffee? Hmm. Oh, oh my. Oh, well, for those who are watching, I'm so sorry. Kate has been having some connection issues. So I'm gonna wait a minute and see if she's able to join back. And if not, I really hope you enjoyed this. I adored talking to Kate, actually. I always love having an opportunity to just sit around and chat with Kate, because we're both local to LA, and so it's fun to just have a chance to um, you know, to have a chat with someone in the writing world. If you are watching this and you have questions for Kate or you have questions for myself, please feel free to go ahead, toss them into the comment section of whatever venue you're watching this, and I will be absolutely thrilled to share those questions. So let's see.
that was a total journey. I disappeared there for quite a while.
You froze, but it wasn't an unattractive freeze. So,
Oh, well, that's
and
good
then
to
you
know.
went away.
I had to like go out and come back in.
Well, we totally heard your answer on WB, Universal, or Disney. So that's great. Well, I know we only have a
Good.
couple more
Good.
questions. I tossed it out there to
These are the
everyone
important
if they
things.
have, exactly, it's the important things. Um, so if you we have a couple more questions, but what I really love to do is just ask, is there anything that you'd want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as alterations goes, one thing that I learned about my own family is that I had my mother's great aunt in 1915, 1920 was lived in Boston marriage with the love of her life, Mary. So Boston marriage is what they called people who lived together who were lovers, but it was just thought they were roommates, or people just didn't ask. It was sort of a don't ask, don't tell. But in Jacksonville, Florida in the 20s, which is astonishing to me, given the phobia in other parts of my family from that generation. So I was really, really surprised and thrilled. And she was a real badass. She was an editor for the Independent Woman magazine, which was for businesswomen around the country who would get together for groups, for meetings. And there were several chapters of it. So what I love about that and stories from a while ago is that I think that we were fed narratives that were written by a very small group of people through history books, through articles and things like that. And until I found her story, I really honestly thought women were not working then. But there was this organization of women who owned businesses and were out there in the workforce at the time. So Alterations asks a little bit, you know, has Edith Head, who was running a studio in the 30s, running a studio costume department in the 30s and had all women working for her. I guess for everyone, I would just invite them to look into their own families and find the untold stories that might prove, things a little wrong. Because women have been around I found it very bolstering given present times, that all of these women got so much done despite the fact that the entire world was saying, no, business is only for men, and women shouldn't work. So, yeah.
Wow. No, that's incredible. I actually remember.
That's incredible.
Oh, wow, that's a serious echo. Well, then with that, actually, I just want to thank you so much for joining us for 20 questions. This has been so fun, even with all the technical challenges. And if anyone's watching and you're watching the recording, please feel free.
God love it. And thank you, anybody who stuck around.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, again, if you have questions for Kate or for myself, you can put them in the comments section of whatever venue you're watching this, and we will absolutely be thrilled to respond. So with that, thank you so much, Kate. As always, it has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to everyone for joining us.